This is World University and Schools monthly business meeting.
Hello.
Hello, Larry. How are you?
Yep. Okay, I'm
Good,
here.
good. Is the audio quality all right on the phone?
So far.
I turned off the Wi-Fi on the phone, and yet the phone is lower than sometimes, so I'm hoping it'll work out well.
Okay.
Great. So Eckhart may join us. He seemed to think he would. And I have a Hangout going here as well in group video. So I have, not sure who else will participate in that, but we'll carry on with the phone and see if Eckhart comes as well. Great, great. So welcome to a monthly business meeting for World University and School on January 5th, 2019. Did you, and congratulations on publishing your book or having it upcoming.
Yeah, it arrived yesterday, so I have a hot copy in my house of land.
That's so great.
Yeah, and then you start looking at it, you find all these misprints. You'll never get over that.
I noticed that your book, Gaseous Ion Mobility, Diffusion and Reaction, published by Springer, will arrive in February 2018, but it's already here. So
I don't know why it said that. Somewhere I did see that. But anyway, it got here in December of 18. It was supposed to be February of 19, but they got to it early.
Okay, great. Yeah, I posted it also in the agenda and news. Maybe you saw that. So maybe that'll reach a few more people and maybe even find readers in unexpected directions. Who knows?
Yeah, I had 50 or so people so far ask me for free copies.
50 people asking for free copies is an enormous. Are you? Have you selected any reviewers in particular to send a copy to, by any chance?
Oh no, the reviewing stuff was done way back when, so I don't have to do anything more except have them buy it.
Okay, great. That's exciting. It made me, you know, maybe you can teach a course at World University and School which would incorporate your book. That would be another way to get people to get it, I guess.
Yeah.
It also was a great opportunity, you know, with regard to World University and Schools agenda and news to announce 2 upcoming books, yours and my book from December 2018. So we sort of have a book corner going on the agenda and news, which is good.
Okay. Well, unlike you, I think one is my limit for a long time.
Okay. I hear you. Yes, I'm hoping that to publish a few more books and maybe conceive the idea of the book anew, emerging from Google Street View with text in a sidebar in a very new way to be able to be printed on paper. Would that have helped you for your gaseous ion mobility?
I don't quite know what you mean.
So you put the text in a sidebar, such as in Google Street View, and then in Google Street View, with the images, representations, videos of the molecular level, the atomic level of ionic mobility.
Well, that puts the side stuff as 10 times or 20 times or 100 times more than the main stuff. You know, it's 400 pages worth of text, so I don't see that as a sidebar to anything.
I hear you. This would definitely be a reconceiving of the book. If with every statement you made in the book in text, you could have real life representations at the atomic level, images, video, you would, I guess, it seems to me that the book would be very newly conceived and then be able to print from it.
It would be newly conceived. It would just be 10 times harder for me to do.
I hear you as well. I mean, the equations would go to the side, the statistics would go in the sidebar. It would be very not so easy maybe to work in this new format compared to text and numbers, I guess.
I think if I did that, I'd have to reconceive the whole thing, not just move it over there. So
right.
Until I find that there are 1,500 people who bought the book, I'm not going to do anything else.
That sounds like a plan. How can we reach out to a whole series of physicists and chemistry students at World University and School so that 1,500 people can buy the book? We'll see. It retails for the digital version for something like $149, and for the paper version for $158 or something. I saw. Is that?
I saw other numbers. I saw $117 for the electronic and $159 for the print.
Okay.
So I think you get prices all over the place because whoever you're buying it for is not necessarily the publisher, and they can set whatever price they want.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, I think the advantages of digital for people all over the world are many, I guess.
Yeah, it's just that for a book, it's so huge. Finding things in the digital copy is difficult.
Right. Are you? Have you at all, by any chance, looked at the MIT OpenCourseWare to glean where in which courses, which specific MIT OpenCourseWare courses your book might find a place?
No, it's been a while since I did anything with the MIT OpenCourseWare, and I wasn't looking for that at the time, so.
Okay.
I have no idea, so I have to try looking again. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Well, congratulations, Larry Wieland, on publishing your book, Gaseous Ion Mobility, Diffusion and Reaction, Springer 2018.
You're saying it so formally. I hope lots of people are listening.
I may be saying it formally. It gets it into a little video, so who knows whether it'll reach more people this way too. I'm going to post the agenda and news below the video, so there'll be even links to getting your book through those links, I guess. So we'll see. We'll hope. Great. So shall we get to the agenda?
Certainly.
Okay. So the first item is thank you to contributors, editors, and donors in 2018 for World University and School. Glad to have received a $50 donation on the last day of 2018 to World University and School, and hope.
Yeah, was that through PayPal? So there's a deduction fee for that?
Yes, that's
what he did last time. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So that's through PayPal. The address is available at worlduniversityandschool.org for donations, and very grateful. World University and School is a nonprofit, and hope to develop donations in a variety of ways in the new year in 2019. Relatively few people have edited the wiki this past year, but we're also working towards setting it up with the subject template and the backend Wikidata, Wikibase in Wikipedia's 300 languages. So that should eventually increase contributors and editors to the wiki side of things. And I'm hoping students, matriculated students, also will eventually be able to develop World University and School wiki pages, maybe in a subject they eventually will teach even. So collaboration, World University and School is ongoingly seeking collaboration with Stanford, with MIT, with the University of California admissions, and Stanford potentially, possibly for coding, maybe in Google Sites with TensorFlow, as a platform in Google Cloud, and especially for exploring law and medical schools in 200 countries' official languages, since MIT doesn't have law and medical schools with regard to the Creative Commons for MIT OpenCourseWare. Any thoughts on how to proceed after talking with Jonathan Lay in the Stanford Graduate School of Education last year in December?
No, I don't think I have anything new to talk about. So do you?
Continuing to put out feelers and make inquiries in these regards. I guess we also heard back from the Stanford chair of computer science, Alex Aiken, last December, that he's on the way out, and so
retiring or out of the role of chair?
Out of the role of chair. I think he and his wife will continue to be professors of computer science at Stanford. So, hang on one second. I hear a bell. Let me see. Do we have? Maybe that's. I guess yes. Eckhart is saying, is World University and School online? And I'm going to pass him the Google Group Video Hangout URL in the Google text chat. So we'll see if he joins us. So collaboration with MIT and with Stanford could also come through potentially hiring graduate student instructors with regard to this pending National Science Foundation grant. Any thoughts about that in terms of collaboration?
You're supposed to hear about that in this month, right? Sometime in January?
I recall January or February we should hear about the National Science Foundation grant. Any insight into how we would reach out to MIT for graduate student instructors to teach?
Well, once we have the money, it'll be easy, but I don't see there's any reason to talk to anybody about it until
plan. It would be great to get find MIT graduate student instructors who had actually taken an MIT OpenCourseWare course that we were offering online.
Yeah, I don't know if they would release the names like that, though.
That's a good point. I guess we'll have to wait and see until we can explore.
It would be a good thing to put on a job application form if we ever got around to developing one.
Right, right. And in terms of collaboration with University of California admissions, I don't quite see yet a person to contact, a head of admissions at UC Berkeley or similar. But I'm wondering if we get the National Science Foundation grant and if the state of California's Bureau of Private Post-Secondary Education opens their portal and reaches out to World University and School and asks for our financial report for 2018, that they may well know of University of California, or that will somehow get in touch with University of California admissions, UC Berkeley admissions. Does that seem logical? Wait till the money comes?
I think that's what we have to do on just about all these initiatives.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. I'm not, maybe Eckhart Beatty is choosing to view the Hangout as a viewer rather than a participant. I think that's newly possible. So I haven't seen that he's joined the Hangout yet. So I will assume that he's watching until he texts back for further information about joining. So Item 3 in the World University and School agenda is awaiting pending National Science Foundation grant application. Having visited a few friends over the holidays on the East Coast, I'm wondering if that will happen more readily. But any thoughts on realizing this National Science Foundation grant besides waiting?
Well, if they say no, they can tell you what they will give you the reviewers' comments and things for I don't know what do we say, putting it in again, reapplying and improving the application. So that's something to be prepared for. They don't just say yes or no. They tell you, if they say no, they tell you what the reviewers said.
Aha, okay. Great. Eckhart has just text messaged something. Hang on.
Okay.
Great. Hang on. Let's see. One more invitation. So back to the agenda. Maybe we'll have to update the National Science Foundation grant after we hear back from them. I'm hoping it will create a track record such that even, you know, Eckhart Beatty is, we talked last night for about 10 or 15 minutes. That was great. I think he's looking for collaboration possibilities. He's looking for even possibilities with remuneration. I mentioned to Eckhart the possibility of grant writing, which you and I in World University and School had considered 4 or 5 years ago, I guess. I think I'll follow up with Eckhart about that opportunity. Does that sound good?
Or you need somebody who wants to start something, yeah.
I know that we're continuing to get monthly grant availability notices from Nancy Pelosi's office, all kinds of federal grants. So maybe I'll send along that to Eckhart and see what he says.
By the way, those notices are more than just from her office. She just got you put on the list to them. They're around in lots of places, so
yeah,
don't give her over credit or give her office over credit. I think they just got us on a mailing list.
Yeah, they're definitely from various government agencies, et cetera. They're pretty distributed, in fact.
I'm just cautioning you not to give her office more credit than they deserve.
Thank you. Item 4, seeking also to get started with accreditation in mid-February with the California Bureau of Private Postsecondary Education. So we've already touched on that. Item 5, developing World University and School degrees and majors. This partly came to mind because of your and my talk in your home on around December 28th in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
With regard to the environmental science major that you had sort of suggested. What do you think about that?
Well, it depends on how many online courses we can find related to that. I mean, I don't object to having it as a possible new major. It's just a matter of can we support it.
Great. Yeah.
In one sense, it's easier because a lot of the courses are low-level biology and chemistry, et cetera, courses, statistics, et cetera. So you can probably come up with those a lot easier than would be in some kind of other major.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I looked online yesterday, I guess, and found the MIT OpenCourseWare environment courses. which number some 50 to 100 courses.
Oh, there are that
many? But they're not science per se, although there's science is mentioned many times in the title of some of these courses.
Yeah.
But, you know, that would open up a horizon for us to even possibly to combine MIT OpenCourseWare Environment Sciences with some other science courses from MIT OpenCourseWare outside of this list.
Right, yeah. There are, judging from the Chatham Environmental Science Program, there are two main tracks, if you will. One is the science track, and the other one is an advocacy track. Okay?
Yeah.
So in the science track, you're expected to have a few courses on knowing how political implications and advocacy, but not very many. And the opposite holds on the advocacy track, where you don't have as many science courses, but you have more on politics, American government, etc.
Interesting. Great. So, you know, how that plays out on our platform is an interesting question.
Yeah. That's always a problem too.
And so we did get this new wiki back in 2017. This was more than about a year and a half ago, which the WUaS Miraheza Media Wiki, which isn't yet connected with the backend. And unlike the previous World University and School Wiki, the Wikia I think it was the Wikia Wiki for World University and School, I haven't added too much to the new Miraheza Media Wiki for World University and School, but I did create an environmental science wiki subject page at World University and School newly, and one of the first new pages I've made in a while.
Okay.
So that was thanks partly to your, you know, suggesting an environmental science or talking about a environmental science major over Christmas time.
Okay.
So that could become the platform for this major for combining courses. We're still back to sort of National Science Foundation grant funding, Bureau of Private Post-Secondary Education, and end user questions. You know, if we want to start developing this, the Miraheza Media Wiki at World University and School, we need to factor in matriculating students registering, and maybe all, you know, in all 7,000 languages, and maybe for all people ever. so
yeah.
All of that's playing out.
I don't object to thinking about planning for the long range like that, but you got to take it slower, because if you try to develop everything for an infinite numbers like that, then you never get anywhere, because you're always bothering to manipulate it out. So it's easier to write a small package for a small thing than it is to write and think about large numbers.
Yeah.
I didn't say that very well, but I hope the idea came across.
Yeah, it certainly did come across. The planning, you know, that for World University and Schools platform that would articulate with the state of California's planning and digital infrastructure for matriculating students, plus even blockchain ledger, plus even cryptocurrency, you know, and with Stanford are interesting sets of questions. So baby step by baby step, and
yeah.
wait for February, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's the crucial thing next, is to hear what we get on that grant.
So one other new major might be science, technology, and science, and that's also.
No, that's science, technology, and science. That makes sense.
Sorry, society, technology, and science.
Society, okay, all right. SDS type program. Yeah, those have sort of gone on a fad in the last 20 or 30 years.
Yeah.
So I think before we go down that path, we ought to do a little searching to how many students are actually interested in that now.
Yeah, that's that's good thinking. I mean, there are 50 to 100 courses at MIT OpenCourseWare in that regard as well. And interest of students would make a huge difference. So I'm happy to wait on that
Okay.
as well. Both of, the idea to create some new majors after talking with you about environmental science partly also emerges from talking with our first matriculating class. And they're continuing, but I guess the focus on a business major, which is already an existing major at World University and School, is one potential attractant to students. However, I'm curious, having taught some of our first matriculating undergraduate class in my course, Society and Information Technology in the Global University, how that might fit into other majors besides a business major. So those are rather long sentences, but we have basically 6 majors going. Just to review, which you helped create a number of years ago: business, general engineering, electrical engineering and computer science, general science, English, and history. What are your in thinking about building out new majors? Do you think somehow getting a sense of what students might be interested in could have more merit, and even studying this a little further?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's no point or little point in working on a major that you're not thinking is going to attract anybody. But to throw another one in the works of thinking, something connected with GPS and using GPS to create maps and using the maps for various purposes from all kinds of systems and all the way down to, humanities type applications of where people are doing and where they're moving to, and real estate applications, etc. You can think of a lot of applications of GPS things that might be worth having a major in that.
Yeah, that's actually a great idea with regard to a realistic virtual Earth as a STEM field site. I do think in seeking to become a major online university in all 200 countries, official and main languages, that World University and School wants to offer what universities in general offer. It's not necessarily popularity of major. Universities are in a unique space where universities can study things that aren't popular and that are having to do with knowledge generation as a whole, including most obscure knowledge generation. So I'm keeping that in mind as we think through future majors. Yes, we want to attract students. We want our majors to be relevant to students. But yes, we want to be a major university and build on MIT OpenCourseWare's courses, which would include humanities and maybe some of the smallest languages in the world, which wouldn't necessarily attract a large number of students, for example. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So one other aspect with regard to these majors and independent study that comes to mind is independent studies. A single student studying a course on his or her own sort of thinking about it, emerges newly interestingly with regard to our first matriculating class. Reading 2 books against each other or with each other as one works through a series of a course syllabus could be an interesting way to approach and even reapproach MIT OpenCourseWare. I don't know how many courses at MIT OpenCourseWare sort of read 2 books with each other throughout 15 weeks. But does that make sense to
Well, it does for humanities-related discipline, where students have some background of knowledge in which they can do that. It makes absolutely no sense in a science or engineering application, where, for the most part, students don't know anything, and so they can't do that.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, I think that even on the science and the STEM side, that there could be a one book approach. Namely a textbook.
Yeah, well, that's the usual approach. But there, the goal is not to compare and try to figure out which one's right and which one's wrong. There, the goal is to simply learn what the book has to say. Right. You can reserve in the back of your mind a quibble about whether it's right or not, but you still have to go through one book in order to learn the material. So. Right.
Yeah, I mean both one book for STEM and two books for humanities, or possibly for debates on the STEM side of things, you know, are an interesting approach to independent studies, and even to group, you know, courses with 10 people in a group video hangout. I also wonder, however, whether we could do something new with regard to, let's call it creative computing, which comes out of the Media Lab and Harvard Graduate School of Education. Karen Brennan wrote a book called The Harvard Graduate School for Education's professor Karen Brennan wrote a book called Creative Computing with some colleagues. And to take a creative computing approach to both MIT OpenCourseWare STEM courses with maybe one textbook, independent study, or with a class of students, and maybe two books approach as well, could open new horizons in new ways, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. We'll consider it when think about it as time goes on. I'm not instantly
swayed. Okay. With regard to sort of a two-book approach, I'm also excited about the possibility of teaching a course on Harbin hot springs and virtual worlds that would bring together my actual virtual Harbin ethnographic book with Tom Bellstorff's Coming of Age and Second Life, An Anthropologist Explores the Virtually Human. So that's an interesting possibility that I'm not sure what kind of major it would be under, but it would maybe anthropology, maybe GPS or virtual worlds production, but interesting possibilities. So just briefly, in terms of other majors and graduate schools at World University and School and planning for this, in many ways, with regard to law degrees, it would be great to head in the direction of a kind of developing an outstanding faculty, and this is reflecting a Columbia Law School Twitter post recently. So outstanding faculty at World University and School in all 200 countries' official and main languages for law degrees, exceptional facilities, but those wouldn't be Columbia in Manhattan. They would be online facilities, hundreds of courses, which we could do, and a location in a kind of city of World University and School online, not New York City, but does that make sense as a goal for law schools at World University and School?
Yeah, as a baby step toward that, you might investigate what it takes to get into an interlibrary loan arrangement.
Yeah.
Because rather than build up your own library, you'd like your students to be able to request online access to whatever it is they happen to be pursuing. And I do that at Chatham through ILLAD, they call it interlibrary loan. But that's because Chatham must pay somebody for a fee to get access to that. So it's worth checking into that.
Great. Noting some of this down. Yeah, I think
these days it's a very common thing because since essentially no university tries to maintain all the journals that there are in every field. So you never happen to be probing the real-time library stacks. You're actually almost always going online and seeing who has the issue and requesting a copy.
Yep, yep. And in these regards, both the MIT Media Lab Executive Director Joey Ito and the head of the MIT Press, Amy Brand, have been tweeting recently that paywalls are stymieing the academic endeavor. You want graduate students and faculty want to get access to a journal, and they can't because of the cost of some of these paywalls. And it may be both the information technology, but also so information technology as paywall, but it's also maybe the idea of the paywall. You know, whether if one has to pay to get into a physical library, but it's a real challenge when you can't get access to the scientific journal that has the research that you need to work with and build on.
Yeah, well, usually though, you don't know it's got what you want until you actually read it, by which time you already agreed to pay $35 and you feel like a waste, right? It's really hard until you've got the article to know if that's what you want or not.
Yeah, the ability to browse in a library makes
right.
and with World University and Schools 200 countries official languages approach,
it'll make it even harder to browse. Yeah.
But also we potentially offer infrastructure that may offer a path forward in these challenging times with paywalls. Who knows?
So that's why I'm suggesting you look into what WUaS could do in terms of getting access to really get. I mean, one negative might be you actually have to have a physical library that you could share back, and if that's a requirement, then of course we don't have it. But it's possible that there might be some small fee that would allow people to access it through us.
Yeah, I know that the Ivy League universities in this country, I think, have a consortium, and I think the University of California's 10 campuses have a consortium as well. And I don't know where Stanford or MIT play into those consortiums, but I think I'll look into seeing what might emerge in these regards as well.
And the interlibrary loans also include big city libraries.
Right.
Carnegie Library in Pittsburgh is just one example. And so, anyway, it's worth checking.
Yeah, definitely worth checking. So just to close on graduate schools and at World University and School and other majors, medical degrees, you know, are something we'd like to offer in 200 countries' official languages, and that may be 4 years out after our first accrediting, matriculating undergraduate class, which should begin in the autumn of 2019, so in a few months. And then PhD degrees as well, based on the MIT OpenCourseWare, since MIT OpenCourseWare has graduate classes, but it doesn't have a law school or medical school classes. I was glad to see that you know, Marcus Krutsch, who's a founder of Wikidata and is sort of on our information technology committee, and maybe facilitating even our WUaS Miraheza MediaWiki and similar, has said that there are fully funded positions available at the Technical University of Dresden for computer science majors and postdocs and math majors especially. Great to know that we would graduate some PhDs, and if they were in computer science or math, that there are fully funded positions available for postdocs.
Oh, well, that's true every university.
Yeah.
I mean, it usually goes through the individual researcher who finds the funds from a government agency for a postdoc, and then advertise postdoc positions and goes from there.
It seems a little bit distant at this point, since
Yeah, it is.
I mean, we're considering still first undergraduate class at accrediting World University and School beginning in 2019 in English, then PhD class the year after. It might happen sooner. We might be able to do all these degrees in the first year, but I doubt it. Law degree 3 years out from this autumn, and medical degrees all in English first, 4 years out. But that could change if the platform comes together in new and remarkable ways as well. So it looks like also getting to item 6, and with regard to Wikidata and information technology, that that Wikidata via Lydia Pincher is seeking to create more, which is Wikidata's product manager. That Wikidata is looking to make their platform more accessible on Google Cloud and Amazon Web Services.
Okay.
That's great. World University and School has a Google platform in mind, and if Wikidata, Wikibase, and Wikimedia could all be working in 300 languages in Google Cloud, that would be really super.
Yeah.
And it was also,
well,
what?
That's just a matter of watching what develops there, because we're not directly involved with it.
Right, right. So, yeah, I'm hoping that whatever communication goes on between Wikidata and, for example, Stanford, would unfold as our platform grows as well. Maybe Google Sites with Wikidata, Wikibase, MediaWiki, and Stanford. I keep my fingers crossed with Alex Aiken and the Stanford Graduate School of Education, to be seen.
Okay.
And item B under Wikidata and information technology, and with regard to world universities exploring a universal basic income as a cryptocurrency with blockchain ledger, a single cryptocurrency with blockchain ledger backed by all 200 countries' central banks, and possibly for all 7.5 billion people. I was glad to see that the former executive director of Wikimedia Germany, Pavel Richter, is exploring this idea of an unconditional basic income as something like license fees, only for journalists, but for all, was his Twitter. So that's, it's good that Wikidata is thinking about a universal basic income, because I think they could be coders in this regard.
Okay.
And I mentioned Marcus Crutch and PhD fully funded positions. That's all Wikidata related, and will also, I hope, place our PhD graduates in many universities, greatest universities in the States as well. We'll see.
Okay.
And in all 200 countries. So item D, hoping to get the subject template working with regard to Wikidata and Wikibase and MediaWiki, and we're sort of in waiting mode for that. One further question is how voice would work. If I wanted to add a new wiki subject at World University and School using Google Voice or Apple Siri, is that in the offing? Is that ahead? Do you,
yeah, again, that's just something you have to monitor, because we're not involved with doing it. So.
Right. So item 7, World University and School outreach. We've talked about University of California admissions, possibly to the Quaker world as well. We're in waiting mode with regard to that as well. Item 8, and maybe also in terms of outreach, maybe to San Francisco itself, Unified School District, and maybe the state of California would have sort of a database of possible prospective online students who might be high achieving and likely to finish 4 years for a free to students undergraduate degree online. So having visited one of my best friends from high school who was originally from India, from West Bengal, Kolkata, and his parents in Baltimore, I was, and also because his brother is in the Foreign Service in Sri Lanka, off the southeast tip of India, and also because his sister, who's a Harvard professor of pediatric neurology, is focusing on Bangladesh in terms of health questions. She's an MD. Bangladesh is just to the east of West Bengal, which are both northeast of India. It occurred to me to focus on these countries for online World University and School in English, because many are English speakers there, into other languages there, and because they're all in the similar time zone. What do you think about that?
Well, nothing you said doesn't make sense, but I mean, what's the next step?
Right. I mean, it's sort of 13 and a half hours difference from West Coast, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
So that could be a locus, a hub for.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
For developing World University and School in Southeast Asia, in Asia. They could do time zone questions with regard to a whole series of countries in Asia, I guess. This might well come out of sort of a Google platform, but it would be helpful to have people in that part of the world sort of thinking in terms of what courses would be helpful in Hindi, eventually what courses would be helpful in maybe in Chinese and in Taiwanese and Japanese, for example. What do you think?
Yeah, well, that's a big problem. The 12 hours out of phase, plus or minus an hour or two, makes it real difficult to keep communicating.
Right.
I work with somebody in Moscow, and that's about 10 or 11 hours out of phase, and it's really difficult. Basically, it's a one-day turnaround, even though the instantaneous communications, it gets there at midnight or when he's sleeping, and he responds to it the next morning, and I don't get it until midnight again, and it takes a while. 36
hours later, you communicate, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
It's not quite that bad, of course, but I'm exaggerating, but it is a real problem.
Right. Huh. Yeah. I also think that India, as a developing world country, would offer a whole series of very different approaches to MIT OpenCourseWare degrees in Hindi and English for a more developing world part of Asia. I don't know about Russia as well, but and hopefully, you know, every country will develop their own World University and School in their language, and will, you know, that will come in together in one conversation under World University and School's umbrella. But having seen my friend and his family, India, Sri Lanka, West Bengal, Bangladesh, makes some sense. Also for medical schools in Bangladesh, medical questions, research. So we're down to about 8 minutes, and can we switch to the WUaS Press and the WUaS Corporation?
Okay.
So we are further developing our academic press. We have 3 books published in it right now. We haven't developed the machine translation to make either humanities, poetry, or science, technology, engineering, and mathematics translate into another language in a second. But we're hoping to get there. So the 3 books we've published are all in the social science, humanities, poetry sphere. And that's sort of item A from the agenda. item B is congratulations to you, Larry Wieland, on publishing Gaseous Ion Mobility.
Okay, we went through that. All right.
One of the questions is how the WUaS bookstore would eventually seek to carry it for sale.
That I'm not sure of yet.
So in looking recently at Open Library and at Goodreads and at a number of others, many of these open libraries in similar have and World Catalog, which tells you where a book you're looking for is located physically in a library near you.
Yeah.
Many of these libraries have links to online bookstores, and there are a lot of online bookstores.
Yeah, sure.
So how could we become one of those bookstores, emerging from maybe Google Sites with TensorFlow, and with each page a book? And then how would the WUaS bookstore purchase your book, Gaseous Ion Mobility, from Springer? Or would we be able to just post it to our bookstore page, to a page in our bookstore, almost, helping them sell it, getting a part of the sale, but without having to pay them, sort of.
The way I could do this arrangement without anything else is that you'd get my 10%. After the 1,500 copies, assuming they sell that, then I get 10%.
Huh.
And if I give the 10% to WUaS, that's the profit you need to make this work.
Interesting.
You see what I'm saying? So if someone wanted it, that would be like a year or more from now. But if someone wanted it, they would order it through you at the bookstore, and you, the bookstore, would order it from Springer, who would ship it directly to wherever they were, and the cost would be $150 plus or minus, and that $15 eventually would come back as a rebate to me that I would give to you.
Great.
You see it?
That's one good possibility. Another, having worked in the Quaker Pendle Hill bookstore, bookstores on the ground buy physical books from publishers like Springer, and buy them at 60% of the cost.
Right.
And then they mark them up, and they benefit from the 40%, which includes the shipping that it costs to get Springer to the Pendle Hill bookstore, and a whole bunch of other costs that get subtracted from that 40%. So how this emerges newly online, so that World University and School, using your book as an example, would get possibly, the 40% if we actually bought the book from Springer, or and sold it through our bookstore.
That ties up a lot of money and leaves you open to the possibility that you can't sell it because not enough scientists contact you.
Yes, I think you're right. I'm also sort of talking out loud with regard to what are new bookstore practices online with regard to the internet.
I don't know, yeah.
So if there is a practice where the WUaS bookstore could just add a link to Springer's book page for Gaseous Ion Mobility, and instead of buying the book and getting 40%, just by adding a link and it being sold through our bookstore, get 10% or something similar. So I guess looking into those norms and those practices makes a lot of sense going ahead.
Okay.
I'm also wondering, having heard recently about a portable document format, the PDF Adobe file format reader. So like a Kindle reader, which is a tablet which has proprietary software, how one could format my actual virtual Harbin ethnographic book as a PDF. It already is a PDF, but
Sure
which could only be read once in an Adobe PDF reader by the owner of the Adobe PDF reader, one of our students. Is that a way that would work to?
PDF reader is free.
I'm wondering if there's a kind of proprietary Adobe PDF reader.
No, there's a proprietary Adobe PDF maker.
Okay.
Okay. And in effect, they get their money now from, let's say, Microsoft, because you can take a doc file, and put it out as a PDF file, and Microsoft pays Adobe a little bit of a fee for that ability.
Huh.
From the user's point of view, it's all free. You can bring up a DOC or DOCX file and write it out as a PDF file.
Interesting.
Okay? And the way Adobe keeps its money flowing is the fact that you cannot edit these silly files. You have to go back to a doc file, and that they charge for.
What I'm interested in is, say there were 10 students in a course that I was teaching through Stanford and World University and School on virtual Harbin hot springs and virtual worlds. And I didn't want I own the copyright to my actual virtual Harbin ethnographic book. And I could sell this PDF through the World University and School bookstore to students in my class with the book's index at a much lower price than is sold on Amazon. But I wouldn't want the students to send the PDF to other students. And so I'd like them each to buy it and only be able to read it through a Adobe PDF reader that would allow that.
I don't think that has possible. At least I've never heard of that.
I'm wondering if it could emerge, if it could be created, paralleling a Kindle reader kind of approach. But I'll keep my eyes out for that. I'm not holding my breath.
No. Think more programming skill than either of us probably have to do that.
But it may
probably violate all the rules on PDF anyway. So
it may well emerge. I bet there'd be enough interest, and it would certainly benefit World University and School's bookstore. So 2 more quick items in the remaining 30 seconds. Just that our bookstore would like to merge from Google Sites with TensorFlow with an academic press for machine translation, potentially in 7,000 languages. And we've touched on item E, the last item. It would just be great if, all of the WUaS educational services stores could emerge from TensorFlow, Google TensorFlow, into a stock price in each of all 200 countries' stock markets. And then if we could also teach via our law school or our MIT OpenCourseWare Sloan School of Management how other companies would add their stock price to any given country, and it all be digitally focused. It's a great possibility and seems possible with TensorFlow and Google Platform. But what do you think in our closing moment?
It's too far forward for me to be able to give you any informed opinion there.
Okay. We'll wait and see on that one as well.
Yeah, okay.
Great. Thank you so much for World University and School's monthly business meeting in the new year, 2019.
Okay. Next month it'll be the second week as usual.
Yeah, this week was on the first Saturday, unusually, of January 5th today. Next week it'll be next month it'll be February 9th, second Saturdays as usual, 9 a.m. Pacific time. We're open and electronically mediated.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you then.
See you then.
Right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.